We will call our town board meeting to order for February 26, 2018 at 7:06 p.m. Ms. Mellenbacher, will you please take roll call?
Mayor Christy Melendez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Miles Baker.
Here.
Cindy Showerman.
Here.
Ken Bennett.
Here.
Paul Rennemeyer.
Here.
Ivan Adams.
Here.
Mr. Rennemeyer, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is review of agenda by the board and addition of items of new business to the agenda for consideration by the board. Does anybody have a addition or of items or new business for consideration? If not, I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented tonight.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Mr. Bennett approving the agenda as presented. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the agenda passes unanimously as presented. Moving on to item 4, board liaison reports. Mayor Pro Tem Baker, Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Board.
Thank you. I have no update. I was unable to attend the February meeting.
Okay. Town Board Member Showerman, Water and Sewer Board, Clearview Library Board.
The Water and Sewer Board has not met. The Library Board met last Thursday. They are currently looking for 2 foundation board members, if anyone is interested in that. And they are also working on rebranding their author series from Windsor Reads to Clearview Reads. And they've got 3 great authors scheduled to come in over the course of the next year. And they also reviewed staff merit pay increases and reviewed and approved their 2018 goals.
Okay, Town Board Member Bennett, Planning Commission, Windsor Housing Authority.
Planning Commission met last week and they reviewed the site plan for the new Arby's, which is on our agenda tonight. They also conducted their public hearing on the Eagle Crossing Subdivision 4, and that public hearing is on our agenda tonight. The Housing Authority has a lot going on. They had an extensive meeting last week with Susan McKittrick, who is the State Program Director for U.S. R&D, Rural Development. And Rural Development is an agency of the Department of Agriculture, helps with funding and rules and regs for senior housing. Extensive meeting. The 2 biggest things that came out of that, one is the Housing Authority has placed money in escrow to purchase 8.5 acres of land, known as the Winshire Park 4, which is just north of Windsor Meadows. It's their intent to get the funding and go ahead and get approval to build up to 90 additional units for senior housing. So that's a big step forward. Working with R&D, they'll have to work with us, possibly maybe some rezoning because of the density change. They'll be having neighborhood meetings, they'll be hiring an architect, and they also have to get that property removed from the Metro District up there. But they've done that in the past, so all systems seem to be moving forward. That'd be a big gain for us in the community. In addition to that, they are also talking to R&D about the possibility of purchasing Governor's Farm property on 6th Street. Turns out that is a R&D senior housing project, although it is privately owned. Their next steps for the Housing Authority will be to do a capital needs assessment to determine what might need to be done over the next 5 to 10 years in terms of plumbing, housing, or roofing, and so forth, and then to get an appraisal. So things are moving forward with the opportunity to significantly add housing for seniors in our community.
That's good news.
Very
Thanks
good
for
news.
sharing. Town Board Member Rennemeyer, Historic Preservation Commission, Great Western Trail Authority, and Chamber of Commerce.
There is no update on the Historic Preservation Commission or the Great Western Trail Authority, as they have not met since our last meeting. The Chamber of Commerce met a couple weeks ago. The big point of conversation, in addition to just regular housekeeping things as far as the Chamber continuing this year, we've laid out all of the activities for the year, trying to get more networking opportunities for the Chamber in town. But the big thing that kind of stole the show was talking about the upcoming election. was of concern to all of the businesses and kind of what the future of Windsor holds. So that's the end of my report.
Why don't you make an announcement at the candidate forum?
Oh, I'll bring up the candidate form. On, that is a chamber
Speaking of
thing,
which,
yes. On March 20th, it's a Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock at the Windsor Community Rec Center. All town board candidates are welcome to attend. I don't know if we've had 100% RSVP for that. Yours truly will be there. But that is to get to know all the candidates, to go over all of the issues, how they pertain to Windsor, kind of the future and direction of the 10 candidates that are on the ballots over 4 different districts in Windsor. And the election, since we're talking about it, is on April 3rd. So more news to come probably in the paper and the other sources of media. So we look forward to seeing you there. If you'd like to get to know all of us, again, that's Tuesday night, March 20th at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It's sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. So hope to see you there.
Town Board Member Adams, Tree Board, Poudre River Trail Corridor Board.
The tree board meets tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the Poudre River Trail Board meets Thursday at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I have no further report.
Okay. I have Downtown Development Authority and the North Front Range MPO. North Front Range MPO meets this Thursday at the Larimer County offices. So I don't have anything to report until we have that meeting. Downtown Development Authority, some of the things in our meeting from last week on the 21st. So, wrong paper here. Okay, so we still are working with the Backlot Development Visioning Project that composes 3 blocks in downtown Windsor. They currently do have kind of an initial concept that's floating around for the backlots between 5th Street, 5th and 6th, 6th and 7th, and 3rd and 4th. So those are all the lots. We hope to be closing on one of those properties in the next 6 months. We are going to be issuing a wayfinding RFP to kind of complete this study on signage, not only for the downtown area, but just signage in general for Windsor. So we're looking on that and starting to create an RFP. That board, as well as this board, will be meeting in the very near future with the mill owner to talk about what the mill incentives are going to be as we continue to review and have that discussion about bringing the mill back around. And finally, they found out that they have reached their next goal for the Colorado Main Street designation and have decided to move up in their ranking, which basically just will allow them for future and more grant opportunities. So those are some of the things that the DDA is currently working on. And that concludes my report. Moving on to item 5, we have public invited to be heard. We didn't have anybody who registered out front, but if there are any individuals wishing to participate on a non-agenda item, this would be the time and opportunity to step forward to the podium, stating your name and address, and then speaking to the town board. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to the board this evening on a non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will move on then to item B. Item B is our consent calendar. This evening, we have 5 items that are appearing on the consent calendar. Is there a discussion or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Mr. Adams approving the consent calendar this evening as presented. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the consent calendar is approved as presented. Moving on to board action, item C. The first item this evening will be a site plan presentation for Arby's Restaurant, Eagle Crossing Subdivision, 6th filing, Martin Lind, the owner, John Sweet, TST Incorporated, the applicant's representative. Ms. Berry will be giving presentation. Ms. Berry.
Thank you. As you mentioned, this is a site plan presentation for an Arby's restaurant to be located in Eagle Crossing subdivision. It is a qualified commercial site plan. It'll be reviewed under accordance with Article 9 of Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site is near the crossroads, the intersection of Crossroads Boulevard and Fairgrounds Avenue, just east of the 7-Eleven and just south of the Summit. It is zoned general commercial, and it also falls in an area that is designated as commercial corridor. The site is just under an acre. The building proposed is just under 2,900 square feet. It's got adequate parking and landscaping and additional bicycle parking. And also on the plan, it includes the planned 10-foot trail along Crossroads at the bottom of the south on the south end of the site plan. Here's a landscape plan. It's pretty adequately landscaped. And building elevations. The building is about 20 feet in height. It does have a varied roof line, but it's flat but varied. It is a mixture of the cultured stone and stucco in earth tone colors. It does have some metal accents. Again, this is a commercial corridor area, so that you'll see that emphasis on the cultured stone and other materials besides the stucco. So this is the north elevation, and then the south, west, east elevations, and also some details on the trash enclosure. So this is for your information. Oops, sorry about that. But we are in review process right now, and if you have any comments that you want us to incorporate, please do let me know. And if you have any questions, I'm here, and so is the applicant. If there's something I can't,
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Redemeyer.
I was gonna question the south elevation there. Just, if that's what people see on Crossroads, is that what would normally, I mean, it doesn't even say Arby's on it, I mean, from that side. I mean, I'm just questioning, I'm not calling anything into being out of order, it just,
We do
I
have
would
a
have thought that the other side that we saw that was the north elevation would
quite
have been
nice.
what faced Crossroads.
It has to do with the drive-throughs placed on the site. It's on the south end of the site, and to get adequate space and to get the drive-through stacking, it's on the south side. So that's the reason why, and we've seen that in other developments like the Starbucks up on Main Street. So the idea was to make it an attractive facade. It just doesn't have that direct walk across the parking lot access into the building. But there is a patio area on the east elevation. The least probably viewable side would be the west elevation. They'll have, it's probably got less character, but there's a lot of vegetation around there too, so it won't be so prominent.
Any other questions for Ms. Berry? This is your one time to take a look at this, Mr.
Just to
Bennett.
follow up on Mr. Redemeier's question, the view from Crossroads on the south elevation, there would be, my understanding is there was going to be extensive landscaping all around there, and with some height for the landscaping.
Yes, there's quite a bit of landscaping. There's trees. We've asked for one of the trees to be replaced here in this last review, but with the drive-through, there's quite a bit of vegetation along the drive-through to help block the headlights from going into Crossroads. So there's quite a bit of shrubs, evergreen shrubs along here. And then, of course, the trees and then additional landscaping out here.
Thank you.
Sure.
What's the timeline?
I'll have to ask the applicant that, if that's okay, or applicant's representative.
Okay.
Do you have a timeline?
Oh, can you please step forward? I'm sorry, we've got folks who are listening at home, and unless you step forward and state your name and address for the record.
John Sweet, TST Consulting Engineers.
Okay?
They'd like to start as soon as they get approval, so
Oh, okay.
they were the original opening for a groundbreaking in March of this
Okay.
year.
And when do they anticipate then an opening date? Or hoping?
I don't know that for sure. I would assume probably about a 6-month construction window. Let's see, with site and building, maybe a little longer, probably end of the year.
And is the plan to retain the Arby's at the I-25 exchange as well?
Yes, I believe that's the case.
Okay. Any other additional questions? Okay. If not, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Berry?
No, unless you have questions.
Okay. I don't think we do. Thank you. Moving on to item 2, a public hearing. Final major subdivision plat, Eagle Crossing subdivision, fourth filing, Martin Lind, Eagle Crossing Development Incorporated, applicant Tom Siegel, Water Valley Development, and Brian Williamson, TST Incorporated, applicant's representative. This is quasi-judicial. Paul Hornbeck will be giving presentation. I need a motion to open public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move to open public hearing.
Second?
Motion on the floor from Mr. Ennemeyer and a second from Mr. Bennett to open public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no.
I gotta read my little thing.
Okay. Public hearing is now opened, and Mr. Bennett.
Madam Mayor, for the record, I'd like to point out that in my capacity as Town Board Liaison to the Planning Commission, I was present at the Planning Commission meeting during which this matter was previously presented. I wish to state that my participation in the Planning Commission proceedings has in no way influenced me in my capacity as a Town Board member this evening. I will make my decision and cast my vote this evening based solely on the evidence presented during this public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Hornbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Town Board. This major subdivision has been reviewed in accordance with Article 4, Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The proposed subdivision is approximately 91 acres. It is currently zoned limited industrial, general commercial, and high-density multifamily, MF2. The subdivision includes 2 lots totaling approximately 22 acres, zoned MF2, that are concurrently being site planned for a multifamily development. There's 1 additional 3.5 acre lot that is multifamily for possible future development. There's 1 6 acre lot zoned limited industrial, and the 6 remaining lots totaling approximately 51 acres are zoned general commercial. There are approximately 9 acres of public right-of-way dedication, including the extension of Steeplechase Drive, which would be constructed at where it currently dead ends at Highland Meadows Parkway, connecting through with a bit of a jog down to Fairgrounds Avenue. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting in August of last year, and there were 12 neighbors in attendance, with the minutes from that meeting enclosed. The proposed subdivision is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, particularly the Chapter 5D Commercial and Industrial Areas Framework Plan, the goal which states support diverse housing in residential neighborhoods to meet the needs of varying family sizes, lifestyles, and income levels. And Chapter 5C and Chapter 5D goal, which states maintain the character of the community while accommodating future growth that is fiscally and environmentally responsible. The neighborhood meeting, as well as this public hearing, was noticed in accordance with the municipal code to the property owners shown on the map before you. At their February 21st, 2018 meeting, the Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation of approval subject to the following 3 conditions. Number 1, prior to recording of the subdivision plat, the applicant shall provide satisfactory evidence to the town that the plat does not conflict with the existing surface use agreement in place with the mineral owners. Number 2, the applicant shall enter into a development agreement with the town prior to recording the subdivision plat. And number 3, all outstanding staff comments on the subdivision plat, improvement drawings, and related documents shall be addressed prior to recording the plat. Staff requests the following be entered into the record: the application and supplemental materials, staff memo and supporting documents, all testimony received during the public hearing, and the recommendation. That's all I have for you. I do want to note the applicants are present, should you have any questions for them.
Okay. Are there any questions, Ms. Sharman?
Can you go into a little more detail on some of the road options? I guess my specific question, I see where Steeplechase Drive is going to connect to that future creation of Grandstand Drive, which then meets up with Rodeo Drive. But is that going to be a through road with what is currently labeled a private drive where the road comes up by 7-Eleven.
Correct, there would be a through road, I believe it is private, from this point south to Crossroads, if that answers your question.
So from a user standpoint, it would seem like just continuous road.
Correct, it'd be a public access road, but privately maintained.
Okay. And then Stallion Drive is going to connect with that Hospitality Drive,
Yes,
but that doesn't go through further west, it just ends there.
you're talking at this point?
Where's my packet?
At Fairgrounds?
Yeah, so it just is a 90-degree where Hospitality meets
Correct.
Stallion.
Right, so the Ward Industrial Park existing in Loveland, there's buildings here, so it can't really extend much further.
Okay. So will the access for Hospitality Drive, will there be access from Crossroads?
There is, yes.
And it's just a right in, right out, similar to what's the private drive by 7-Eleven?
I believe it would be a similar limited access, not a full movement.
Okay.
Please come up and if you want to add to that?
Hi, sure,
Mr.
Martin
Lynn?
Land, 1625 Pelican, Windsor. We're working with Loveland Transportation and Scott and Dennis. This probably is gonna be a full interchange. That's right where Resurrection enters their property. And all the plans so far have that as being a full movement intersection right here. Excuse me, so we're working with Loveland Traffic on that right now. And then Hospitality will come, if you can see the house, comes here, dead ends into Stallion, goes left, and you can then go right in, right out on Stallion, or you can go north up to this area. We are working with Laramie County Commissioners, Loveland, and Windsor staff to look at bringing this all the way through and get a better stoplight gapping out here on Fairgrounds. None of that traffic study is back, but I think we have a meeting Thursday on that, which is really a nice solution to a lot of traffic issues and movements out of the ranch. So this goes to a stoplight at the ranch up here at the entrance to Aladar and the ranch. And if we can pull this one through, this one may not need to be stoplight then. So we're working on that right now. And by not letting Hospitality come through, it allows us a big retail spot right here, which is the master plan on this.
Thank you very much.
You bet, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can you highlight the road, the north-south that'll lead more to those apartments? That's not Ward,
Right
that's the
here.
next one over, right?
The the apartments that are in for site plan right now is Ward, it's right here. And it's built to this point, right there. And
Mhm.
then with these steeplechase improvements, it gets built on, Ward connects to steeplechase.
And it will go south to Crossroads.
And its end Crossroads.
Is that the Walmart light?
Yes.
Did you have other questions,
No,
Mr. Baker?
that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
There are no further questions from the board. Is there any questions from anybody in the chambers this evening? This is public hearing, and this would be your opportunity to speak to the board at this point in time. I would just ask you step forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay? Seeing no one, and if there's no further questions, we have everything we need to complete the record at this point, Mr. McCarter?
No, Madam Mayor, I think it appears complete.
Okay, I would seek a motion to close our public hearing.
I move that we close public hearing.
Oh,
Sorry.
Second.
Go ahead.
okay, motion on the floor for Mr. Bennett and a second for Mr. Adams to close the public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item 3, resolution number 2018-23. A resolution approving the final major subdivision plat for Eagle Crossing subdivision 4th filing. Martin Lind, Eagle Crossing Development Incorporated, applicant Tom Siegel, Water Valley Development, and Brian Williamson. TST Incorporated, the applicant's representative. Quasi judicial, Mr. Hornbeck, anything further you care to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Any additional questions from town board members? Okay. Then is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2018-23.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Ms. Showerman for approval of resolution number 2018-23. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. And the resolution passes unanimously. Moving on to item 4, ordinance number 2018-1555, an ordinance amending section 19-1-20 of the Windsor Municipal Code with respect to improving transparency and accountability for metropolitan districts in the town of Windsor. This is second reading. It will require a supermajority vote and considered legislative action. Mr. McCarver.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Town Board, before you tonight on second reading is an ordinance that you approved on introduction about a month ago. The amendment to the code was composed by your Metropolitan District Special Counsel with assistance from my office. The idea was to add a bit more accountability and transparency to Metropolitan District Board operations. And what we did was we added 3 subsections to this section of the code that deals with the location for meetings during which budgets are discussed, the location for meetings during which general obligation debt is discussed. It requires that the call for nominations for board folks interested in serving on Metropolitan District boards be posted in the district's designated place for meeting notification. And the only other change to the ordinance since first reading was that we have added a clause that authorizes me to change the model service plan to incorporate these terms. So the ordinance, if approved tonight, will change the code, and then the authority you give me allows me to amend the model service plan for future users. So this ordinance is before you on second reading, and as you indicated earlier, it will require a supermajority.
Are there any questions for Mr. McCarver? Okay. This is second reading, so at this point in time, is there anybody in the chambers who wish to address the board on this ordinance this evening? Okay.
John's back there.
Step forward.
Hi, John Turner, 6379 Crooked Stick. Just curious where the meeting places are going to change to. Do they stay? And I didn't hear first reading.
Okay, sorry, John. The ordinance says that if there is an end user who owns property in the district, then the meetings have to take place somewhere in Windsor. So if you have an end user who owns the property, and then there's either debt being taken on or the annual budget, those meetings have to take place in Windsor, rather than the metro area, which is. What was the first one? What was the first question? The first question had to. The first alteration had to do with posting the call for nominations. Forgive me for turning my back on you, but I wanted to make sure John understood that, because you're right, he wasn't here for first reading.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any additional questions? If not, I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2018-1555 as presented.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Ms. Shireman and a second from Mr. Bennett approving ordinance number 2018-1555. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the ordinance passes unanimously. Moving on to item 5, ordinance number 2018-1556. An ordinance annexing and zoning certain territory known as the Swanson Annexation to the town of Windsor. John Turner, Hillside Development Group, the applicant. Kristen Turner, TB Group, the applicant's representative. This again will require a supermajority vote. It is second reading and legislative action. Mr. Hornbeck.
Thank you, Mayor, Town Board. This second reading of the Swanson annexation is a annexation of approximately 29 acres. Property is located to the northeast of the intersection of 257 and Harmony Road. The ordinance remains unchanged from the first reading. Again, this proposed zoning is general commercial. It's in conformance with the comprehensive plan. With that, if there's any further questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, are there any questions, Mr. Hornbeck? Okay, seeing none, this is second reading, so if there's anybody this evening who would like to come forward and talk to the board on this discussion item, this would be your opportunity. Okay, seeing none, we do have an ordinance on the floor. I believe we have all of the material that we need presented in the packet.
Madam Mayor, I have a quick question.
Okay, Mr. Baker.
If this were not to pass, it just means any development that happened there would not come to the town for approval?
Correct.
It would go to the,
outside of-
they'd go to the county for approval.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam Mayor, I would move to approve ordinance number 2018-1556 as presented.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Ms. Sharman and a second from Mr. Rennemeyer for approval of ordinance number 2018-1556. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the ordinance passes unanimously. Moving on to item 6, a public hearing. Public hearing for ordinance number 2018-1557, an ordinance of the Town Board of the Town of Windsor, Colorado, approving the service plan for Ptarmigan West Metropolitan Districts numbers 1 through 3, and authorizing the extension of an intergovernmental agreement between the town and the districts. Legislative action with presentation from our town attorney, Mr. McCarter. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Madam Mayor, I move to open public hearing.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Ms. Sharman to open public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the public hearing is now open. Mr. McCarter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Board. This is legislative action. We are convening a legislative public hearing on the question of whether you should adopt or approve the service plan that was presented to us by the Ptarmigan West Metropolitan Districts, numbers 1 through 3. This district is proposed for property that is controlled by Tom Muth out at the intersection or at the interchange of I-25 and Highway 392. That property is by now familiar to you as it has been before you in various forms over several years. This district is proposed in 3 separate districts, and the service plan lays out what each of those districts is intended to do. There's a control district, there's a commercial district, and there's a residential district, so that's pretty straightforward. When this service plan came in, I referred it to Carolyn Steffel, your special counsel, who is here this evening, and she prepared a brief memo, but the message that you need to hear from both Carolyn and me is that the applicant has stuck very closely to the model service plan, and by doing that, that makes your job a lot easier because they are, in effect, adopting the model that you have said should govern metropolitan districts in Windsor. So I thought I would introduce the topic and have Carolyn step forward just to give you a little bit more detail on what the districts are about from her unique perspective as your Metropolitan District Special Counsel.
Good evening. Thank you again. Carolyn Steffel, your Special Counsel for Metropolitan Districts. Nice to see you all this evening. As Ian mentioned, this one was it was easier to review because it did stick to the model service plan. What is proposed for the Ptarmigan West Metropolitan Districts would be creation of 3 metropolitan districts. One will be the operating district. That'll be district number 1 that will have a small service area. Then there'll be a residential and a commercial district area. They're proposing to issue together with all 3 districts up to $25 million in debt, and they have put together a financial plan that shows their projected development of both the residential and the commercial, and it does support the ability to issue that $25 million in debt and even more. We originally, when I did the review, we did have some comments, and the petitioners were very were great to work with, and they were able to revise the service plan to incorporate those comments. So I don't have anything that I would say is a reason not to approve this or to conditionally approve this service plan. It does meet the requirements. We also did put in the requirements that were just adopted by the ordinance that you just passed, because we assumed that that may go forward. So you'll see the service plan does have language in there, and so does the IGA, talking about holding these budget meetings in the evenings every other year and in the boundaries of the district, and posting that notice of the election call for nominations. And I'm open to any questions you might have. Also, the attorneys for the district are here as well, for the organizers, and they can answer any more detailed questions about the development plan itself. Okay.
Are there any questions concerning this? Mr. Adams?
Were there any changes to the road that goes through the area? I know we discussed it, and I don't think we wanted any changes, but I just wondered, were there any changes? The one that,
Zach, can you speak to that? I think there was some, there was some off-site road improvements in part of the, but I don't know the details of what those are gonna include. Do you,
Zachary White from White Bear Nagley, representing the organizers of the district. I think you're probably referring to some development plan questions. The service plan doesn't deal with the ultimate development plan, what the roads will look like through the development. That'll ultimately be approved.
So that comes
under
later.
future action. That will come before you at some point, and you'll make a final determination on that.
okay, good answer.
So what this service plan does is it approves the organization of these new metropolitan districts, the ability to issue debt, and roads is one of the improvements that they can use for that debt, but it will be subject to still needing to go through the full development process.
Okay, Ms. Shawman?
This may be somewhat along the same lines as Mr. Adams' question, but as I look through the estimates related to the debt that would be issued, there's obviously a significant amount related to streets. Is that intended to be just for the internal streets, or would that be any sort of contribution towards County Road 5 improvements that may be required as part of the development?
County Road 5 as well. You'll see in the service plan there's a section dealing with enhancements to the town that does discuss widening of County Road 5, some privacy wall along County Road 5 to reduce noise for the development in the open space. So you see a lot of those costs are related to that road as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. If not, again, this is the public hearing. This is the opportunity for those folks who are here to talk to the board, to ask questions on this item. This would be your opportunity. Is there anybody here this evening who wishes to speak to the board on this hearing item? Okay. Seeing none, I would seek a motion to close public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor from Mr. Adams and a second from Mr. Bennett to close public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. Public hearing is closed. Moving on to item 7, ordinance number 2018-1557. An ordinance of the Town Board of the Town of Windsor, Colorado, approving the service plan for Ptarmigan West Metropolitan Districts numbers 1 through 3, and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the town and the districts. This will take a simple majority vote on first reading and legislative action. Mr. McCarter, anything further?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Anything further from the board? Okay. If not, I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2018-1557.
Second.
A motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Ms. Sharman approving ordinance number 2018-1557. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the ordinance passes unanimously. Moving on to item 8, Economic Development Report Update from our Director of Economic Development, Ms. Stacy Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Board members. I apologize the report was not available to be in your packet, but it should be up on the website by the end of the week. We usually try to put them up there so the general public has an idea, as well as the developers can have an idea of kind of what we've been seeing and what activity is out there. and then what we're missing in town or what we're losing out on because we don't have that opportunity. So just to kind of go over some of the activity that we've been through since the last time I was up here, which was last fall. I had the privilege of speaking at the Wyoming State Economic Development Conference. So they wanted to hear how we're doing it down here in Colorado and try to give them some ideas about how economic development proceeds in northern Colorado. Was able to speak at Wellington Economic Development. The town clerks meeting, went to that one, and spoke at a CSU class on poli-sci about government and economic development. We also were invited to speak at CSU's Everett School of Real Estate. So we were there and I got to speak in front of a whole room full of brokers and yell about how awesome Windsor is. So I really enjoyed that event. Hopefully we'll get invited back next year too. I think people were kind of surprised at our current population and our ability to what we had expected to grow as well. As you are well aware, some of you attended the Metal Container Corp's 30th anniversary. We passed a CPACE program in Weld County. Larimer County's kind of been put on hold. There's some staffing issues and unfortunately some things that are going on with Larimer County, but we'll continue to work on that so that businesses will have energy efficiency opportunities in both Larimer and Weld Windsor. We had the Rocky Mountain Sports Park groundbreaking. We did an RTA update to the state, and we had a cybersecurity event for manufacturers. So I think one of the most unique things that I learned about was that people can hack you through your fax machine and through your copier too and get in. So it's just pretty prevalent with people don't even realize. So we had this through the Northern Colorado Manufacturing Partnership. I thought we were busy this year, or last year. I was right. We had a groundbreaking 170 prospects in 2017. So if you take every day, Monday through Friday of the week, that's a new prospect every day and a half in our office that we were seeing. So we had a lot of activity. We now have about 74 of those I would consider active, and 2 of them still from 2016. 29 prospect visits, and means we had companies and prospects that actually came to town and toured and talked with us. 12 company announcements. We did 102 business visits, and we had 82 miscellaneous assisted companies, meaning they weren't necessarily expanding, but they were here and we helped them with some piece of information or some document or anything that they needed. These are the economic development efforts since the office was formed. This is just an infographic that I formed and created. I think you might have seen it the last one, but we've had a lot of investment in the community. You can see a lot of prospect activity since this department was formed, as well as a lot of square footage taken up and a lot of payroll into the community, which is fantastic. So if you can see by type, no big surprise, the largest sector is industrial still at 60%. I'll just kind of go through these fairly quickly because you do have the report in front of you as well. The largest sector that surprised me this time, the prospect activity, was retail and retail trade. So that is the largest sector of growth that we have going on right now. Manufacturing is the second at 19%, which again is usually number 1, but this time it was retail in the last 6 months. Lead source, still the same, Xceligent. We have an opportunity to join Catalyst because Xceligent has gone bankrupt. That was our real estate group that we got our real estate data from, and we did that. So for the same fee, we're being offered Catalyst. So I'll try that out and see if I like it this year. If not, we may have an opportunity to use CoStar. It's just a little bit more expensive. So I'm trying to be a little bit frugal right now just to make sure that if this works, it works great. So yeah.
What do you, excuse me, about company? Is that where the company comes and finds you, or is that where you
get a direct call from the company? Yeah, which is great.
That's really high.
Yeah, it's good. That's, you know, people wonder why I go out and speak a lot and do all these presentations and constantly go out and try to sell Windsor. And word gets around at, you know, at our processes and how great Windsor is. And so I think it's a testament to not just economic development, but all of our staff and our elected officials as well, as how much people want to be here, you know. So, sorry, so you can see Xceligent was first. The company is 26%, and upstate Colorado is third at 21% from our activity coming in from that source. Real estate, still people are looking, the majority is looking for existing space, which as we know can be difficult, and land is about 38% right now. People are still looking to build their own or have a build to suit for them. The largest prospect by square footage is still under 10,000. We had an uptick in 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. this time, and also 30,000 and above, but a lot of 2 to 3 acre sites along with that square footage again. So we had a big, a little bit larger square footage request again the last 6 months. And instead of going from 1 to 2,000 square feet, it went from 3 to 4. Still under 10,000, but that was an interesting note. And then again, a huge surge for some reason in the 30 to 40,000 square foot range. We have about, this is an interesting statistic. Since I've been here in 2011, we have never had a majority of people that wanted to lease versus own. So this is something that has shifted over, which, as I've said before, I would rather have people trying to own and make an investment. It's not bad, it's 43 to 46%, so I'm still not concerned about it. If it was a huge swing in the other way, I would be more concerned, but I like to see more people that want to come in and own their property. It means they're making an investment in our community. I think the lease rate is just a little bit higher. We had 4 spec buildings, what we call speculative buildings last year that came online. They're all filled up already. And we've got people chomping at the bit to get more of them. We've got 3 more that I know of coming online. And they're all in Falcon Point, which is one of our newest industrial parks. All of the property in Falcon Point is now sold, built, or under contract. That park is done from that standpoint. So
there's, did you say there's gonna be spec building out there or no?
yes,
There
so
is.
one about 25,000 square feet, I've been told, and then 2 10,000 square foot buildings out there. So they can be divisible by several amounts or whatever they end up getting in contract. I am working with a company right now that's gonna take all 39,000 square feet up in Highlands Industrial. And that is to the east of the storage unit and north or southwest of the Norco volleyball. And I'm told that there may be somebody that wants to develop that lot in front of the volleyball place as well. So we're definitely getting action on the speculative buildings or the investment in those. If you build it, they will come, so to speak.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Those buildings that are out at the Highlands Park, are they the ones that you're talking about? We've approved these in the last 6 months or so to be built out there, and they've thus built. One of them's under construction there by NOCO. Are those for lease, or are they for?
They're for lease.
They're all there
One of them
already?
is tenant owned or tenant filled, like the owner is actually one of the tenants in the building. There's only, the one that is behind the MASH Labs or to the north of that, there's a small amount of square footage in that space that's allowed, or that's left. It's about 7,000 square feet if it hasn't already leased in the last couple weeks. I toured a company from Germany there not too long ago for part of that space, about 3,000 to 4,000 of it. And they're coming back and working with the broker to see if they can finalize that. But yeah, it's already almost all full. And it surprised me that the 39,000 square foot building was already done too. So they're building them and leasing them. So. So we had 17 leads this year that we didn't even qualify for. So those get taken out of the mix right away. They get counted towards the whole total, but they don't. This is where we look and say what's happening and what can we build upon. Again, existing industrial with acreage was a huge one. We had industrial but didn't have 2 to 3 acres with the industrial. Usually had under an acre with that site for outdoor storage. And then the size, we had 40,000 up to 1 million square feet. You can guess that 1 million square feet was something called Amazon that we just didn't qualify for. We got the lead, but we didn't qualify for several reasons. Not only that's the square footage, but it was also because of the mass transit and all the other requirements that came along with that prospect. So again, 102 company visits in 2017 that we did, and then Jill is currently working on 7 company expansions. So we have, not only do we have the attraction coming in, but we have 7 companies that we're working with to expand here in Windsor as well.
Great.
Yeah, there's the total. 2016 was 115 prospects. 2017 was 170 prospects. If I can do my math right, I think that's about 67% increase. I was like, I knew we were busy. I kept saying we were busy. We were busy. There it is, right? So, but it's good. I think we had a good year, and everybody in Northern Colorado had a good year. So we just have a lot of activity going on, and we're looking to just generate even more with Jill and getting her out there with existing industry. We hope to roll out a program where you guys can get involved to not only do the normal tours that we do, but hear from the existing industry too in a smaller setting, and hear what they have to say about what it's like to do business in Windsor. And that'll start hopefully next month or the month after. So we'll get that program rolling out. Thank you. And I didn't know if anybody had any further questions.
Any questions for Ms. Johnson?
I have one.
Okay, yeah.
Ms. Johnson, if some wealthy company would come in here and say, we want to build a bunch of buildings from this 30,000 square feet to 1,000,000 square feet. What would you do?
Yes, where would you like to go?
What?
Yes, where would you like to build it? Which park would you like to locate in? It depends. What I do is I take the snapshot and the trends over a couple years, because I don't take anything that just comes in the last 6 months. I like to look at the trends for the last couple years. If you guys have heard me say it's industrial square footage under 25,000 square feet with a little bit of ware yard, that's what's being built and that's what's being acquired right now. And that's been the trend for the last 3 to 5 years. And so this larger one, I would probably say tentatively wait or build a building that's large enough that can be divisible. So if you build a 40,000 square foot building, build it so that it can be broken down into other divisible pieces if it needs to be.
There's a second part to the question.
Sure.
But, and would you have companies that would say, thank you for building and we would like to lease, or would they want to buy? And I think I've seen in this report that most of them want to lease. But how would that make you excited? Would you have the companies to fill those buildings?
We've seen enough prospect activity, yeah, we've missed out on quite a few. Building spec buildings is still, I think if you build it, they'll still come at this point right now. That's just been the trend all over northern Colorado, even in Denver for that matter, and they're just, people are coming and building and growing. Obviously, I prefer companies to try to own their own building, because it means that there has more of a commitment and they're actually there. The taxes still get paid either way, so the revenue is still there. But personally, I just like it when they want to make an investment and then they own their own building. It just means their risk of leaving and going someplace else is reduced, typically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Communications from our town attorney.
Nothing from me this evening, thank you.
Communications from town staff. Mr. Ballstead? Ms. Unger? Or, I'm sorry, Ms. Hoadley. Okay. Chief? Okay, Ms. Emel? Okay, we want to give a special welcome to our new deputy clerk, Amanda Mellenbacher. You did a great job this evening. Thank you. Okay. Communications from acting town manager, Ms. Garcia.
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
Okay, communications from town board members. Okay, Mr. Adams.
I would like to share one thing, that Windsor High School won the state for a wrestling championship. Those kids were absolutely outstanding. And right now, the boys basketball team from Windsor High School and the girls basketball team are in the throes of heading toward their championship too. They're both going to the 16 round, which means they're in the top 16 teams at this point, doing very well. I don't know anything about the other high schools at this point, but those I do know about.
Okay, great. If there's nothing else, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
A motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer, a second from Ms. Sharman, and tied with Mr. Adams to adjourn. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And we are adjourned. Thank you.